very much, and it's been great to hear so many different stories and hear everybody, so thank you for that. But I was asked to talk about two different topics, and we'll start with P3. So who here is familiar with what P3 is? All right, so about a quarter. So for those that don't know, it is public-private partnership, which really basically means you have a public entity like JTA, you have a private entity like a bank, and we come together to be able to fund a public infrastructure. And so, first example I wanted to share with is the Acosta Bridge. So the JTA is in charge of the lighting for the Acosta Bridge. And the lights went out a few years ago and they needed to come up with some financing. So we got together, we came up with a pretty interesting way to accomplish that. And JTA actually really stepped up to the plate because they not only lighted the bridge, but they took it to another level. They made it beautiful. They ended up taking lights that, I don't know if anyone's been over the bridge during a Jaguar game, but you get to see the colors of the Jaguars, or a holiday. You get to see the holiday colors. So, you know, again, it's something that has changed the Jacksonville skyline for the better, and is something that really, you know, just changed it for us. So, another example is Public Works. And so I had the opportunity to work with a Florida electric co-op a few years ago, and anybody who is a Floridian knows that we have a tendency to get hurricanes. And the Public Works company that I worked with has to front a lot of the costs when there's a hurricane. So they have to pay for hundreds of workers to have to go all over the United States, or all over the state, sometimes to a different state to help them out. They have to pay for gas, for lodging, for overtime, for equipment, just to get us back online and for us to get access back to electricity. So they pay for that up front, and then FEMA reimburses them 90 days, assuming every single document was filled out correctly, fingers crossed, and then they move on to the next one. Well, when you have a really busy hurricane season, and we had a year I can remember in 2004 where we had 3 and 30 days, it's expensive. And they have to cover that. And so it became a problem year after year as we've seen hurricanes increase the last 5-10 years. And so we got together and we collaborated and we figured out being able to give them a bridge loan for 18 months. So if there's a lot of hurricanes and they're having to pay for that times 3, the bank is able to come together and give them that opportunity. So just wanted to share some examples of how public and private can come together for the good of the community, and what kind of impact it truly can have for everybody. So I'm going to flip to what I know best, which is the private side, and probably what most of you are here for, which is funding, right? How do you fund a startup? I don't know if you guys can read the graph pretty well here, but if you can see this, the funding, the number one reason for funding comes from your pocket, it comes from your families, and it comes from your friends. Over 80%, in fact, is actually where that funding comes from. So you don't see a lot of venture capital, angel investors, or banks stepping up to the plate when you're looking at funding a startup. Well, why is that? I think it's been explained a couple times yesterday, but I'll reiterate that they're risky. Don't know if you're aware, startup funding is risky. So I thought this was an interesting stat as well, but the United States has 3 times more startups compared to the following 9 countries combined. So we really enjoy our business and we really enjoy starting up companies. So let's break that down a little bit more. If 90% of startups fail, and we have 71,000 startups in the United States, that means that 7,000 are going to make it. It's difficult for a bank or a joint venture or a angel investor to be able to step up to the plate and do that type of funding. So, you know, I actually did look this up before I got here. The ability for you to win in Vegas at a blackjack table is 2 times more likely than it is for a startup to actually make it. Terrible odds, terrible odds. But let's look into the why first, and then we'll go to the positive side of it. So 90% of startups fail, but 43%, if I remember correctly, is there's no market need. So the market need, I thought, was an interesting statistic because I didn't assume that would be the biggest problem. So I thought it best to use an example. I'm going to create something called JessBook, and it's like Facebook, but it's better. It's amazing. Everybody will want to be on my platform. It's going to take it to a next level. There's, I think I read 2.7 billion users on Facebook right now. So I have the potential to get 3 billion clients over to my platform, right? They're all going to come over because it's better. No, it's not so much the market need as far as how many customers are out there. It is how many customers can I convert over, and that's a very, very big difference. Now, what I know about mainly is the cash side of it. So as you can see down the list, make sure I have it right, 29% run out of cash. All right, the next several ones are either directly or indirectly related to money. Did you build the right team? Could you afford the right team? Did you have enough money? Were you outcompeted? Were you outcompeted because you couldn't market your product because you didn't have enough money? I don't know if you see the theme here, but money actually links into quite a few things up here. So how do you improve your odds? Well, Bill Gates could knock on your door and just give you a bunch of cash and then you'd be great. You could have a rich uncle that passes away and ends up giving you money, but in all reality, that's not typically what happens. So there's a couple things that I kind of thought were important to highlight up here. And I think the most important one is to be intentional. You need to be intentional with your finance budget. You need to understand what is it really going to take for you to be able to start your company and sustain it past the first month. I can't tell you how many clients I've had over the 20 years I've been in banking where they started their company on a 0% for 6-month credit card. And then 6 months later, they run into a problem because now it's 19%, and a year later, they're out of business. So you need to be intentional, you need to be realistic, and you need to understand that it's not going to be the easiest thing to be able to walk into a bank and get a loan day one. So what do? You're going to have to sacrifice. You're going to have to sacrifice equity. Sometimes you're going to have to sacrifice your savings. You're going to have to sacrifice your time. And so I think with the knowledge of realizing that it's not the easiest thing to start up and it's going to take a lot more than probably what you realized to do that is where you can be planned and intentional and careful with what you do. The other important thing I think is to think outside the box or be open to different options. So maybe it's a combination of debt and equity. Maybe it's a combination of you're really going to call that uncle that you didn't really want to call to ask him for the money so you can make it happen. Just be open. Talk to other business owners. Talk to mentors. Talk to Carlton Robinson is a great contact who was here yesterday to talk through and get his insight on things. So, just being able to be open to that, I think, will take you a long way. And then the next two items, I think really three, kind of go together. Growing relationships, communication, and advocate. You need to be able to have somebody in your corner at day one. You need a banker. And notice I didn't say bank. I said a banker, an actual physical person that you can talk to about your company. You may come to somebody like me and say, I want to start this business. It's the greatest idea. That's great. I can't give you a loan today, but keep me in the loop. I have seen a lot of businesses start out of their pocket, start with their friends and family, and be able to grow. And they shared the journey with me. And so as time went on, I was actually able to become an advocate for them for the future. So when they were lendable, I would fight so much harder for somebody I know than somebody who just walks off the street and wants a loan and, okay, here's my information, here we go. So communicate, keep your bank in the loop. As your business grows, your relationship with your banker should also continue to grow. So I think that those are, just very good keys and very good opportunities to improve your odds, to take it to the next level so your startup can actually be successful and happen. Now, for this little bit, this is actually Matt's idea. I don't know where Matt. This was Matt's idea, thank you. And I had a blast with this, I have to tell you. I went around to a bunch of different business owners, executives, attorneys, CPAs, and I asked them their opinion of when might you need a new banker? So you might need a new banker if, it's kind of an unofficial Jeff Foxworthy thing, they are only willing to loan you an umbrella if it's sunny. Doug Wilder, I think you're here. That was yours. Thank you very much. You might need a new banker if they're unresponsive, don't take your calls or return your emails. Or they don't give you their cell phone number. They don't know what you do. Or they don't ask, or they don't really care. It's kind of a problem. They will not work with your attorney, CPA, or insurance people. These are all advocates for the company. They all should be communicating and working together. If they're not willing to talk to them, there's a problem. They don't have a LinkedIn page. I'm a big fan of LinkedIn, so I think that goes a long way. You don't know who they are, because it's maybe your banker's changed 5 times and no one's called you in the last 2 years. That's an issue. They only call you to sell something. They don't really check in with you to see how your company's doing. That's something I think is very important, because they need to know what's going on. They don't celebrate important milestones with you. One of my most favorite things is to be able to go out to a client's office, see something that's been built, have a grand opening, and celebrate with them. That took a lot of work. It took a lot of effort, and it absolutely warms my heart to do that. And the bank itself doesn't reflect your values. You need to have a bank that does reflect who you are and what's important to you and your company. So I think that these are all good things to take a look at and evaluate as you're doing that. I personally was a business owner. I know the struggle that it takes. I have grown up in North Florida, and I can't tell you how important it is to me to help our small business community grow. Without small business, we don't have anything. They employ 99% of people. That's a huge, huge number. And so we all need to, I think the saying has been very nice all throughout today and yesterday, which is, as water rises, all boats will too. If we can support our small business community and help them, whether it's advocating for them, whether it's connecting them to resources, introducing them to Carlton Robinson or somebody like that, that will make a difference in being successful. So I thought to finish it up, I'd like to invite one of my clients up to the stage now, who has a very successful startup story. And this is Phil Kimball with Major Concrete, and he is their CFO. And so I'd like to ask you a couple questions, and then we might get a couple from the audience. So first of all, can you tell us about Major Concrete?
Well, it starts with a guy named Mike Cameron, who a number of you probably know Mike. Raised here in Jacksonville. Mike had the vision to start another concrete plant. So technically it's maybe not a startup, it's kind of an extenuation of his professionalism.
There you go.
But Mike had an opportunity to start one more company. He'd started 2 concrete plants in the past and sold them, and had an angel investor that had deep pockets and really respected Mike, and invited Mike to come back down to Jacksonville. Mike's currently living in South Carolina, commutes every week. So invited Mike to come back down and help support the startup, or the quasi-startup, by funding it, and then bringing a number of his friends into it. And then Mike invited me to help, because I have a history of starting companies and growing companies. So I said, sure, Mike, I'll help. So on comes Phil, and we raised a number of dollars through angel investors, about close to 17 initially. And so we had a good little pool of money to get started. So that's crucial. And then we looked, and we finally found Jessica and Lou for a really good, trusted partner, and more than a banker, a trusted partner that has helped us grow our company. Literally trusts us, and we have a great working relationship. But that's crucial. You have to have air. Money is air, and you have to have trusted people to help you get started, and then you have to have trusted partners. So it started with a 5-acre leased parcel of land in Green Cove Springs. Mike and I took our shirts off. We helped develop the thing, built a plant in 6 months, bought 8 trucks. Immediately, because of Mike's trusted background, we immediately had every truck utilize maximum capacity from day one. So we bought 8 more trucks, so we had 16 trucks. And I think we bought 10 more trucks. And we're in the process of opening our second plant near Callahan, near the airport. And we We bought 20 more trucks for that plant, so we'll have 20 in Green Cove, we'll have 20 in our North Plant, or Plant 2 we call it. And so we've been very blessed, very fortunate to have great partners and great wisdom coming from our network of very successful business community investors that have helped us get started. So what did I forget?
You hit the nail on the head, and I think that I spoke a little too long perhaps, so.
Just a little bit, but we do have time for a question or two from the audience, and obviously have a lot of construction knowledge here, so that makes sense.
Yeah.
Hey Jessica, great, enjoyed that conversation. So I guess circling back on the topic of P3s and just the sort of horrendous legacy that they have and the challenges that they present, do you have any creative thoughts on the future of P3s, and maybe if there's opportunities to even leverage innovation or technology to make them successful beyond the obvious facts of probably need to be smaller projects, limited in duration, things along those lines, but any thoughts on that?
I mean, my expertise is really around the financing and bridging the gaps, but I think the biggest thing is communication and being open to being different. And so, I had never done a loan like I had for those other two, but once we sat down, we talked through it, we got some ideas, and just get face to face. I think you can really utilize that in order to be able to reach your goals. I think that makes a big difference.
Excellent. We have time for one more. Anybody in the back? Excellent. Let's move on to our next panelist, but a big round of applause for questions. We'll be having the lunch in a little